Hello, and welcome to our workshop that's an introduction to the Rotary Global Grant. My name is Jennifer Bess. I am the Director of National Fellowships and Scholar Programs at the University of South Carolina. Our office helps connect students with local Rotarians to apply for this award. I hope that this workshop will give you an overview of what the program is, what Rotary is, why it's such an amazing competition and scholarship, a little bit of information about previous winners from UofSC, and information about the actual application itself. Hopefully this will take about 20 to 25 minutes. And then there should also be a follow-on piece that is a question and answer session with our two most recent winners. If you're watching this before the 18th of November, then that will be live at 4:30 on that day. And if you're watching that afterwards, we will be adding the recording of that session to this workshop. So what is Rotary? Rotary International is the global network of over 1 million people who try to make lasting change in their communities. You may have heard of them. They are known for the near eradication of polio and just generally important work in a lot of different areas throughout the world. They are really focused on service above self, and they are an organization that has um, districts throughout the world. They have local Rotary clubs all over. And so one of the things that they offer and value is education. So the Rotary Global Grant is one of the ways in which Rotary gives back to their community by investing in students to learn to do graduate level coursework in specific areas that will help further the goals that Rotary International has. Specifically, the Rotary Global Grant is a scholarship that supports 1 year of graduate work abroad, so not in the United States, and is valued at between $30,000 and $50,000. You have to do you have to do study, graduate study in one of their 6 areas of focus, and we'll talk more about that as the presentation continues. And you provide them with a budget, so that between $30,000 and $50,000 can go towards tuition, living expenses, traveling to the country. If your budget is not going to hit $30,000, then they welcome you to include a community service project that would be a sustainable, long-lasting project wherever you're going, and you can incorporate aspects of your budget into that as well. The 6 areas of focus that Rotary emphasizes with the Global Grant and many other awards are peace and conflict prevention and resolution, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, economic and community development, disease prevention and treatment, and water and sanitation. And we'll talk a little bit more about these and the types of programs that they're looking to fulfill those as this goes on. New for 2022, which is the cycle that we're about to enter, there's going to be an additional emphasis on the environment. So we're still learning about that, but just know that if you have an environmental issue or concern that's being woven into these 6 areas of focus, but I believe may also become a 7th area of focus. Just a quick review of how successful our UofSC students have been. The Global Grant began in 2013, and our first scholar was Rachel, and she was able to go to King's College London, studying international relations under peace and conflict prevention. And she was sponsored by the Forest Acres Rotary Club. In 2015, David Wolfer decided to go to Cape Town, South Africa, where he earned his Master's of Public Health under Disease Prevention and Treatment, and he was sponsored by the Rotary Club of 5 Points. David laid the pathway for several students to do this MPH at Cape Town. In 2016, we had Catherine Glenn, who was an alumna who applied for the award, and she went to Belfast, where she did her Master's of Science in the Psychology of Childhood Adversity as part of her interest in peace and conflict prevention. She was sponsored by the Columbia Capital Rotary Club, and she shared some pictures of herself at her graduation. In 2017, we were lucky to have 2 scholars named, Ryan Anderson, so he did the Master's in Public Health at Cape Town in South Africa, and then Rachel Lunsford, who went to Cambridge to do international relations. Ryan was sponsored by 5 Points, and Rachel was sponsored by the Spring Valley Rotary Club. In 2018, Hanson Cohen was the recipient of a global grant, and he is currently earning his Master's of Epidemiology in Colombia. He was sponsored by 5 Points Rotary Club. In 2019, Grace Cooney is a recipient, and she will be doing a Master's of Science in Migration, Culture, and Global Health from Queen Mary University of London. I think actually her program has been postponed due to COVID, so she will be going next year, but she's very excited about that. And she was sponsored by the Columbia Capital Rotary Club. And then again, this past year, we were lucky to have 2 students named as scholars from UofSC. So JD Dawson, pursuing again that Master's in Public Health at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. And Emily Stathoff will also be doing a Master's in Public Health, but she will be going back to Ghana, where she had studied before, and pursuing that at the University of Accra. JD is sponsored by the Vista Night Rotary Club, and Emily is sponsored by the Columbia Rotary Club. Congratulations to the 2 of them. They'll be the Q&A that you will hear later in this presentation. We talk a lot with students about why they should apply for a fellowship like this, and I'm really excited about the Rotary application because it's one of the few competitions that is really a relationship-driven fellowship. So students must be sponsored by a local Rotary Club, which means that students have to go out and meet people and talk with them and find support for their pursuit of education, which is a really wonderful thing. And I think the relationships built between the Rotarians and our students are maintained really for life. Applying for this award means that you have to write an application that requires you to clearly demonstrate that you know what it is that you want to do, where you're headed, the kind of graduate work you need to get there, why you've chosen a particular school, and what your long-term goals are. So being able to succinctly and quickly state that is a valuable skill that will serve you well in lots of future applications and things like that. You will develop professional relationships with faculty. You're going to have to talk with faculty about letters of recommendation, but we also encourage you to consider your faculty as primary sources for thinking through where you might want to go in the world for study and making connections with faculty at universities throughout the world. You'll develop stronger interview skills, so you are going to be interviewed by both probably your local sponsoring Rotarians. They'll want to learn more about you and talk with you, but certainly at the district level, there are interviews to determine who receives the award. And then ultimately, we want you to win, and so hopefully you would get the opportunity to study in an international environment as well as serve the local community in one of these 6 areas of focus. What does the application look like? So one of the first things you need to do is find a local sponsoring club. That kind of goes hand in hand with deciding where you want to study and what you want to study. So either of those 2 things can come first. So we have a list of local sponsoring clubs and connections, so we can help you find out which meetings might fit your schedule, or which clubs' personalities might fit you better. And so getting in touch with them and going to one of their meetings and introducing yourself is a great first step for gaining that sponsorship. You need to decide the graduate program that you want to do. Most of our students, as you saw in those slides, have chosen an actual graduate degree program, although that's not technically required. You could be taking graduate level coursework that maybe you intend to come back to the US and transfer it into a graduate program here. Rotary is very open to that as well. You just need to have a reason for the choice that you have made in terms of courses or actual degree, and why that particular school in that particular location. What you really, really need to do is make sure that your interests align with one of those 6 areas of focus. That fit is very, very, very important for the evaluation of your overall application. You want to consider how Rotary as an organization, why are they a good source of funding for you, right? Why is this the fellowship that you're applying for as opposed to something else? What is it about Rotary's mission and service to their community that appeals to you as a sponsor of a fellowship? And then connect their goals in terms of what they want to accomplish in the world with your own goals. So that alignment is very important. They ask what your plans are once you finish the scholarship. So after you've done this graduate work, what are your next steps? They ask you to present 2 letters of recommendation, which generally should be from faculty who can talk about your ability to be successful at the graduate level that you're proposing, but also might be from someone who can speak to your commitment to community service and the bigger picture of your long-term career goals. They'll ask for transcripts of your undergraduate education and any graduate education you may have. and they'll want you to present a budget for the year that you will be abroad. We can help you figure that out. A lot of universities have sample budgets for international students so that they would know what kind of expenses they might expect. And we also have some examples from previous winners that you can look at. And then you submit your application to your sponsoring club. They submit it on your behalf to the district, and then the district does an interview in mid-August, after which they choose their scholars. So it's a pretty straightforward application, but there are kind of a lot of pieces to it, and it takes, I think, a lot of upfront work to make sure that you have chosen the correct program and the correct fit with Rotaries. Once you have that set, the application mostly writes itself. What are the Rotarians looking for when they review an application? So they really want Global Grant scholars to pursue a career that aligns with one of those areas of focus, and that the graduate level coursework that they have chosen will support their attainment of that career. They really want to see a long-term commitment to measurable, sustainable change. So you can show that with what you have done in the past already, right? How your activities and involvements, coursework, thesis, volunteer work, how does that show that you are committed to this particular area of improving the world? And that measurable, sustainable change, right? They don't want you to just kind of drop in and do something in that country for a year and then leave. How can you really make the connections and make a difference in the community that will continue beyond just that 1 year? They definitely are looking for leadership skills and potential, right? So some of this has to do with what you have done in the past, and some of it has to do with what you can demonstrate you will do in the future. It's both. You're trying to show them that you are a good investment, that if they spend this amount of money on you, that you will really be committed to the work that you do both in the classroom, but also in making the world a better place. So that leadership skills, the proven record of success, right, that you will be capable of doing the graduate work, that commitment to community service, right, that you are involved with trying to help other people in whatever field it is that you are most interested in. Having well-defined and realistic goals. It is only a 1-year scholarship, so you're not going to learn everything and come out of it ready to solve all the world's problems, but you might be able to make a head start. That you've got some concrete ideas for the next steps following the scholarship, that you have a plan for your career and can demonstrate how this international experience will benefit you, and how you will incorporate it into your long-term career. And then this sincerity about maintaining a lifelong relationship with Rotary. So if you come from a family of Rotarians, you're actually ineligible for this award. This award is meant for students who do not have a Rotary connection. And it's not explicitly any kind of recruiting, but it is meant to get students interested in the ideals and goals of Rotary, so that when you are in a position to join a Rotary club, you might actually want to do that and as a way to give back. So there is an expectation that you maintain contact with your sponsored club while you were on your year abroad, and that when you come back from that year, you visit your sponsoring club and tell them how it was, and share information with them. Don't just accept the money and run, let's say. They really do want to see that you are sincerely interested in being sponsored specifically by Rotary International because of who they are and what they're committed to. So let's talk about those 6 areas of focus and the types of graduate programs that they're interested in seeing that you apply for. So for peace and conflict prevention and resolution, they definitely are looking for programs that use those words in their description: conflict prevention, peace and justice studies. They will allow students to do international relations or law if there's a specialization in peace and conflict that you can demonstrate comes along with that. So you might have seen that. So for example, both Rachels did international relations with an emphasis on peace and conflict studies. They also are open to other programs. So Catherine's program in childhood adversity is not on this list, but is definitely, she was able to make the case for why that contributed to peace and conflict resolution. They do not want to look at just general international relations or law. So it really does need to be specific to this peace and conflict prevention and resolution. For basic education and literacy, that's pretty straightforward. If you're studying education or literacy, curriculum development, special education, school administration, anything that supports a kind of fundamental commitment to providing education and literacy programs. For disease prevention and treatment, this is the other category that a lot of our applicants fall under. And so definitely public health. If you want to do advanced degrees in nursing or medicine, or coursework that might support advanced degrees in nursing and medicine. I will say, going back to David Wolfer, who was our first person to do that MPH at Cape Town, initially his proposal as a nursing student was he was going to go and take some public health classes and then come back and apply that to a PhD program here in the US. But then upon further research in his program, he realized that actually the MPH was what he wanted to do. So, but Rotary was fine with either of those suggestions. Maternal and child health, there's often overlap between that and disease prevention and treatment. But this looks at things like epidemiology, nutrition, global health, public health, health promotion. There's lots of different things that fall under this category. Water and sanitation, my personal favorite. I'm always trying to get applicants for water and sanitation. And again, with this new environmental bent, I think that there might be some more emphasis on this. So if you are in engineering and you work with Engineers Without Borders on providing clean water to communities, and you want to do a water engineering course, that would be great. Water management, any kind of environmental science, and even epidemiology and parasitology, right? It just depends on what your specialization within water and sanitation is. The big one that they really want to emphasize here is economic and community development. A lot of times students from business are really interested in this, and what they don't want are programs that are really theoretical or macro level. They really are not interested in doing just general MBAs. It really needs to have this focus on community development. So social science degrees that focus on that, an MBA program that has a community development track, or in the specific name, that can be acceptable. But this one is one where you need to choose carefully in terms of your graduate program. But we're happy to talk through that. If you find programs and you're curious as to whether that would be acceptable, we can help you figure that out. Just went backwards. The application cycle. So right now we're starting our process of recruiting students to apply. It is an interesting award in that if you would like to apply for a Rotary grant that would allow you to earn your undergraduate degree and then go straight into your graduate degree, you actually apply the spring of your junior year. Because the application process is such that you would be notified in August, right before your senior year, if you won the scholarship, but it would not be a scholarship until the following year. So it's like a year and a half in advance is the application cycle. So junior spring is the earliest you can apply for going straight out, but you also are eligible to apply as a senior, as an alumni. We work with alumni every year who apply for this. So don't think that you only have one shot at applying. It really is about the timing and what works best for you and your long-term goals. So right now we are recruiting. We have the application materials, so we can get those to you if you let us know that you're interested in applying. And you have until April 1st to find a sponsoring Rotary Club and to submit your application materials to that sponsoring club. Then and then each Rotary, and when we're talking about this cycle, I'm always talking about our district 7770. You might not be from the Columbia area, and there might be a Rotary Club that you're familiar with in your hometown, and you're welcome to check with them to see if they offer global grants. They may have a slightly different timeline and different process. So we focus on the one that we know here in Columbia. In our district, every Rotary Club is able to submit up to 2 applications, to sponsor 2 applications. So it's a good thing to sort of be ahead of this and get your sponsoring Rotary Club nailed down so that you have a longer period of time to work with them and begin to create that relationship. So you submit your application to them April 1st, And then different clubs handle this in different ways. Some might have an actual scholarship committee. Some might just have a scholarship point person. If they have questions, they can talk to us. They can talk to the district scholarship people. We have resources. But ultimately, between April 1st and July 1st, they'll work with you to double check your application and make sure it really is as strong as it can possibly be and really fits that area of focus. So they may want you to do some editing, and that's fine. But by July 1, everything needs to be kind of squared away and finalized, and then that's what they send to the district. The district then will look at all the applications and they will do interviews in mid-August. So it's typically a Friday night reception and a Saturday interview. This past year, due to COVID, they did those virtually, but in general, it's mandatory in-person attendance. So we'll see how this year goes. But those are really straightforward interviews. You get the list of questions beforehand, and it's just a chance for Rotarians to meet you in person and have you present your application materials to them and demonstrate who you are, not just on paper, but in person as well. Because again, this is a relationship-driven fellowship. They want to know who you are. They want to meet you. So after that August interview, it's not very long after that they notify the winners. And so then if you are a lucky recipient, then you proceed to do some more paperwork and training with them over the course of the following year, building up to you then leaving and going on your year of study. Our office, National Fellowships and Scholar Programs, are here to help you through the whole process. So we're happy to sit down and talk with you and have reflective conversations about whether or not this is a good fit for you. We hope that it is. We are happy to look at essay drafts and guide you through that application process. We do have selections from previous USC winners. Their applications are on file and we can share some of those with you if you get stuck. We don't recommend starting with that. We want you to start with your own material, but if you have questions and want to see how successful students have done that in the past, we have those as a resource. We can give you interview practice, talk you through the interview questions, help you prepare for those August interviews. We're happy to connect you to local Rotary clubs, as I mentioned. There's several faculty and staff at the university who can serve as introductions, but there's also a list on the district website. And then we also can connect you to past Rotary alumni. So we have 2 current seniors who are recipients who are still around who can talk to you, but also if you want to talk to any of the others who came before, they're all more than willing to share their experiences with you. Just looks like a lot of next steps, but I promise it's not too terrible. The first thing to do is to really figure out where it is that you want to go and what you want to do and whether that actually aligns with one of the 6 areas of focus. In terms of choosing that, students sometimes really struggle with this. They don't know where they want to go, or they know where they want to go, but not what to study. I would just really encourage you to use your faculty as resources. Faculty tend to have connections all around the world. They know the schools that have good reputations. They can connect you with faculty in their field in other areas around the world, and they can give you advice about their programs. So that's usually one of the first places I would recommend that you start investigating programs. Otherwise, Google is your friend, and so you just kind of have to dig into finding if you know what kind of program you want, but you don't know where in the world it makes sense to go do that. You can do some research. Our students have gone lots of different countries with the Rotary, and I do think that there is some advantage to considering going to a place that will allow you not only to study the thing that you want to study, but also participate in some relevant form of service to that community in the area that you're doing that kind of work, right? So that's why it made sense for Catherine to go to Northern Ireland to look at childhood adversity and for peace and conflict resolution because of the history of the struggles between Northern Ireland and the UK. So just keep that in mind too, right? That you want to kind of go to a place where you can practice what you're learning. You want to seek out a local Rotary club. Again, we can help you with that. You want to request the application from us. We have what's called an intent to apply form. The link to that will be below this video in YouTube. Just click on that. Tell us you want to apply for Rotary, and then we can send you the application materials so that you have that. I would really strongly encourage you to meet with one of us National Fellowship advisors to talk about your application, what you're finding, what you're thinking. Again, we're happy to look at drafts and give you advice. Try to attend at least one Rotary meeting with your sponsoring club. I actually don't know if they're all meeting in person or not, given the COVID situation, but we can work with whatever the options are. And then again, we have fellowship peer mentors and alumni who are happy to talk with you about their experience. So not all of this has to be done in the fall semester. You have a lot of lead time. We're providing this workshop early so that you can get a head start. But really, January is a fine time to start doing some of these on the ground things like meeting Rotary clubs and meeting with advisors. So lots of next steps. And then this is just a link to our website, shows you how you can make an appointment with one of us. If you are a current student, you can find us on Navigate under Involvement and Engagement. If you are a graduate student or an alum, just email our office at nfsp@sc.edu and we can get you set up with a meeting with one of our advisors. So that is my overview of the Rotary. I hope that you will join us for the live Q&A with JD and Emily on November 18th. If it's after that date, though, just hang tight and we should have the recording of that coming up next for you. So thanks very much.
We are recording. Welcome, everyone. My name is Paige Jennings. I'm the National Fellowships Coordinator. Thank you for joining us today for this live Rotary Q&A. Hopefully, you have already taken a look at our pre-recorded webinar that is posted on our website. If not, go ahead over to our website and check it out. It'll give you the background information about what the Rotary Global Grant is, and then you can watch this and learn more about what our students have experienced with the application process and where they are headed in the future. I'm joined by a couple of other National Fellowships Office members, so I'll let them go ahead and introduce themselves, starting with Novella Basket.
Hi, everybody. I'm Novella Basket, and I'm excited to be here to hear from our Rotary recipients. Rotary is one of my favorite competitions, and we are glad you're here to consider it more.
All right, and then Jen.
Yep. Hi, I'm Jen Bess. I apologize in advance if you hear my dog snoring. He's sitting on my lap. But we are excited to learn more and hear more about Rotary. You might recognize my voice because I did the pre-recorded session, so I'll mostly be quiet for this one. But glad everyone is here to learn more about the opportunity.
And then we'll have Ethan. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ethan Knight, and I'm a new fellowships, National Fellowships Coordinator here in the office. And so I'm here to meet you all and hear about everything you're planning on doing.
All right, thank you. And then we have Taylor and Jan, who are also part of our team, and they will just be joining along and hearing about the experiences. If I haven't said already, this is a part of International Education Week, so please go and check out other events that are happening throughout the week so you can learn about what international students are involved with on campus and other ways that you can engage with all things international at USC. All right, so now time to introduce our panelists. We have two wonderful students here who are our 2020 Rotary Scholars. I'll let them go ahead and introduce themselves. So if we can start with Emily, can you just tell us your majors and kind of your academic background?
Yeah, so hi everybody, my name's Emily. I'm a senior public health major, psychology minor from San Antonio, Texas. As far as my academic background goes, I guess that's kind of pretty much it. I am involved in undergraduate research here at the university, component of my education here at the University of South Carolina. And in addition to that, I've had a lot of great shadowing experiences and internships. I'm actually currently an intern with the Army Institute of Surgical Research. So that's definitely has played a big role in kind of my educational foundation, I guess.
Thank you, and go ahead, JD.
Hi, everybody. Can everyone hear me? Great. My name is JD. I'm currently a senior public health major, just like Emily. And a lot of my interest and background within public health have been around serving underserved communities, low-income communities, and addressing this idea of health inequity. And something more recently that I've gotten into that I'm hoping to expand upon with Rotary is global health, which is kind of that same idea of health inequity, but looking on it and through a global lens. And hopefully, the idea is by learning through the lens of other healthcare systems, other cultures, that we can bring innovative ideas to care and kind of reshape how we address health.
Awesome. So I guess I will open the questions to either of you. So whichever one of you wants to answer the questions first. So tell us a little bit about how you learned about Rotary. So when was the first time you heard about it, and what interests you in the fellowship?
Yeah, so I believe the first time I learned about Rotary specifically was just because I wanted to know things that I would be a competitive applicant for, and I knew I was very interested in public health and continuing to pursue that, especially on the global level after I graduated. So I decided to actually just kind of spontaneously an appointment with the Office of National Fellowships and Scholar Programs, and from there I was introduced to Rotary. That's really how I got connected with it.
I was plugged into the fellowship office pretty early, and I was very much desperate to find one that fit my interest. And I heard about all these amazing things that other students were doing. So I was through a program that Emily and I both started in, which was Capstone. One of my mentors in Capstone is very involved with the Rotary, Dr. Hickey, and that's kind of how I knew for sure. And he kind of explained it to me. And after going to the informational session, I just knew that it aligned with my beliefs. And then when I eventually got connected to a Rotary club, who I really felt, clicked with me, it just kind of felt like this was a good one to apply to.
Great, thank you. So the next question is about kind of your long-term goals. You kind of touched on it just a little bit, but how did you see the Rotary fitting into your long-term goals?
Yeah, so I was definitely very similar to kind of what JD was describing earlier, in that I've always been very passionate about working with vulnerable populations. So for those of you who don't know, Rotary actually has 6 areas of focus. And after I studied abroad in Ghana, kind of through my internship experience that I had there, I had become very particularly passionate about maternal health, actually. And then sure enough, one of Rotary's 6 areas of focus is actually maternal and child health. And that's kind of how I really started to realize that Rotary would pretty much be the perfect fit for me. The fact that that was literally one of their areas of focus. So I guess I didn't mention this earlier. My long-term goal is to go to medical school and become a physician, hopefully to be able to practice on a little bit more of a global scale, whether that be in some sort of clinic, being able to start my own organization one day. That's definitely a goal of mine that I've had for quite a while. And I do think Rotary and the experiences I'm going to be able to get through Rotary are going to be able to help me accomplish that goal. And I believe a big part of why I really was interested in Rotary is I do just think my values align very closely with Rotary's. So I think the values thing and finding an organization that aligns with your own is a really important part of getting to where you need to be.
What Emily said was really great, especially about the different areas of Rotary. And I think that for anyone interested, that's a good place to start to kind of figure out where you fall on that. But in the same vein, I'm very much interested in practicing medicine on a global level. Something that I've kind of noticed in my own studies and experiences is that there are a lot of parallels of like societal structures and how those inequities express themselves as actual health conditions, and that there is actually a lot of comparison that needs to be done and a lot of studying about how to try different healthcare models in other countries to address. And there's a lot of trends to be looked at too. So that's what I would like to do is I do want to practice in America, but I would like to kind of like what Emily said, to be able to have some freedom to kind of do projects internationally as well.
All right, so since you guys haven't said this yet, can you tell us where you are studying, what type of degree that your Rotary grant will be funding, and how did you go about researching where you wanted to go? So what motivated you to go to that place, that program specifically? What was interesting to you about it? How did you start the research for it? Because you have the entire world to look at, and that can be kind of challenging. So what tips do you have for your peers who are interested in the Rotary and not quite sure how to search for programs internationally?
So my answer is probably going to look a little bit different than most, but how I came to decide to apply to the University of Ghana and propose that in my application was that I had already studied abroad for a semester at the University of Ghana. I have a lot of great contacts at the university. I had a great experience at the university, and I knew it was a place I definitely wanted to go back and continue my education with. So that's definitely kind of why I chose the University of Ghana. I'm very passionate about the people and the culture and pretty much everyone I had the opportunity to meet while I was there. As for what I'm going to be majoring in, I'm pursuing a master's of public health with a specialization in population, family, and reproductive health. And that kind of goes back to just my interest in maternal and child health, and that aligning really closely with Rotary's area of focus. But it was a little bit easier for me to kind of figure out where I wanted to go just because I already had the experience in that country. So when I was actually choosing to study abroad in Ghana originally, what had really helped me make that decision was I had met with someone who had already studied abroad there, and they really got to tell me a lot about their experiences, and I thought it just sounded like a really good fit for me. So I think a lot of research needs to go into whatever country you're choosing. It shouldn't just be on a whim or because it sounds really interesting. I think it's definitely worth taking the time to really learn about the culture that you're going to be immersing yourself within.
So I'm pursuing a master's in public health at the University of Cape Town in South Africa, and it's like a 1.5-year program. And wow, so how do you find the right program and country? I think there's basically 3 different things you have to look at. The first one I would say is its relevancy to you. In Emily's case, the place she chose was relevant to her because she had already been there. And it's really, really easy to show you're interested in a place when you can literally talk about your experiences there and what you want to go back and do. So how this place is relevant to you. And that can also be, in my case, I hadn't been to Cape Town, but, I talked about it earlier, my interest in health inequities in different societies. Something I'm passionate about are racial and ethnic health inequities and Cape Town experiences, South Africa experiences, this in a very interesting way that's similar to the United States historically speaking. So that's kind of how I made my case on how this place was relevant to me. The second thing I think you can look at is its relevance to the program that you're in. So if you find a program that is very specific to your interest, maybe there is a research lab that is doing work that you're interested in. Maybe you can even reach out to them and form a connection. Maybe there's USC faculty who are connected to it. But if you show that you kind of already have a connection to this institution, and it's also very it's very relevant to what you're studying and how you need to go to this place to do this thing, I think that is very compelling. And then I would say the third thing that you should look at is past Rotary winners, right? Because if you're showing that the place that you're going to, people from your institution studying what you are wanting to study have already been there, and then reach out to them and talk to them and get great advice, and they can give you connections. I think that went a long way for me. I know there have been more than 2, but I was able to connect with 2 previous Rotary winners who are who did the MPH program in the same university that I did. And that, I think, and when Rotary looked at that, they actually mentioned that in the interview, how, previous winners, it was familiar. So look at those 3 things. It's relevancy to you, its relevancy to the institution, and its relevancy to Rotary.
I will say, kind of bouncing off of that though, if there is a place you want to go that no winners have gone before, definitely don't let that turn you away or discourage you from applying for Rotary. I don't believe I'm not sure if there's been other winners from the University of South Carolina that have proposed going to Ghana or won for going to Ghana. And that was something I was a little bit hesitant on whenever I chose to actually do my application for Ghana. So don't by any means think that if there's somewhere you want to go, somewhere you're really passionate about, but no one's won it before, that doesn't mean that it won't work for you. So I think it really just comes down to finding the place that's a good fit for you and somewhere that you're really passionate about.
Awesome, thank you. And as JD said, speaking with past recipients is a great thing, and I'm sure Emily and JD will make themselves both available to you all. We have a peer mentor program. And so if you want to chat with them in the spring as you're working on the application, please contact us and we will connect you with them. So the next question that I want to ask is more about the application process itself. So how did you identify a club that can nominate you and work with you, and what role did they play in your application process?
I can go ahead and start with this one. So actually that same day that I kind of spontaneously booked my appointment with the Office of National Fellowships and Scholar Programs, and they had given me the nice sheet with all the different people I could reach out to. And I sent my emails, I believe, that night or that next morning. And so I went ahead and attended a couple different meetings, and it ended up working out really nicely with the first club that had gotten back to me. As for how they helped me with that application, my answer is going to be a little bit different because I was a little bit unique in that I was the very first person that my club, the City of Columbia Club, had ever sponsored. So they were kind of learning about the application process alongside of me. Really, the liaison between the Rotary International, basically the district chair, was someone from my club that I would basically figure out when the deadlines were, and then I would send my information to him and he would formally submit it for me. But he was pretty much alongside with me learning as we went, is how I would say it.
So I am being sponsored by the Vista Night Rotary Club. And I think I just found them when I went to the original presentation. I just wrote a list of the names, and I found the one that was closest. It ended up being the Vista Night. And when I went to the first meeting, I actually I went to the place on their website, which was outdated. And so I ended up, thinking that, oh, they weren't meeting tonight, and I was leaving. And I happened to see a woman who was walking by, and she wasn't even going she was going to a restaurant, but she happened to be a Rotarian, and she knew the actual location of where they were meeting that night. So so then I kind of knew that they were, and they ended up being great, really, really great people. I believe that I am the first recipient that they've sponsored, or maybe recently. I think someone said that. No, not recently. Recently, okay, somewhat recently. But they're great, and when if you go to their meeting, you get an opportunity to meet them and talk about the work that they do, and they are well informed of different projects going on. They have their own projects, and if you click with them, then maybe talk to them about possibly sponsoring you.
Great. So my next question is about what kind of experiences influenced your application? What kind of things did you highlight? What were your most influential experiences that made it into your application?
So this probably doesn't really come as a surprise for me, but definitely a big component of my application were my experiences abroad in the country already. That was probably one of the most impactful, not even probably, it was pretty much the most impactful experience of my collegiate career. And it pretty much encompassed a lot of the things that I'm particularly passionate about. And if there's anything that I really tried to make stand out in my application, it was what I was passionate about. And I really tried to make sure that my passion, if anyone was reading my application, that's the one big takeaway that they had, is that I had my goals and I was passionate about my why for having them as my goals, and I was passionate about making them a reality one day. In addition to that, I definitely highlighted just some internship experiences that I've had. I didn't really emphasize any of the little clubs or societies I'm in on campus. They'll see your resume. I think it really comes down to talking about the experiences that are most meaningful for you. So I definitely talked a lot about study abroad, a few internships, and definitely just some family history type things as well. So definitely just what you feel is most impactful in your life will definitely be most impactful for your application as well.
For me, and since my area that I chose through Rotary was disease prevention and treatment, and I'm studying, public health, the majority of the things I highlighted were clinical or related to working with, communities of opportunity or international experiences. And I think what's really great about the fellowship office is that, throughout your meetings and maybe other things you apply for, you learn how to take experiences, reflect on them, and to really articulate that in the form of a narrative in the application. So, kind of like what was said earlier, figuring out which area of focus you feel like most aligns with your interests, and starting from there and branching out and thinking about what experiences that you've had that have led to that interest, and maybe what you can do between now and when you apply to expand on that.
Thank you. Okay, let's see what's the next question. So in addition to your sponsoring club, who are some key players in your application process, and how did they help you, whether they were faculty mentors, past recipients, as JD mentioned? Who were the key players in helping you through the application process?
So the biggest key players for me were definitely in this call. They were Jen and Paige. I know I met with you both a couple of times. I know I actually had like a Zoom call with Paige over the summer where I pretty much just like panicked about the things I was applying for kind of, but they were both always there to answer any questions I had and kind of to support me through the process, especially kind of getting right up to that interview. Kind of always there to calm me down and assure that I was on the right track. I know I got a lot of helpful edits on my application directly from Paige and members of the office as well, and that was incredibly helpful as well. It definitely helps to have someone else take a second look at your application. The other person that really helped me goes back to what JD pointed out earlier, and that was the year before us, the recipient, Grace Cooney, talking to people who have won or even just people who have gone through the application process and didn't win. I also found that helpful, and just to kind of get their experience with the interviews and their application, what they wish they had done differently. Really talking to people who have gone through the process was invaluable as well.
I would say that having applied for one fellowship before was very, very important, I think, to be able the second time to know what I was doing, and it really helped me, kind of like I said earlier, to have a narrative. So, maybe if you're thinking about other fellowships as well, that you're on the fence about, I would still recommend trying them. That really, I would say, helped me a lot. Just like Emily said, I talked to the 2 previous winners who went to the same location that I'm going to in Cape Town, and that kind of helped me know what I was talking about in the application, and the already kind of knowing what was available in the community, talking about specific organizations using specific that maybe the Rotary they're familiar with. That was very helpful. I think the fellowship office is the best immediate resource as preparing for interviews as well as applications. And the other thing is that your Rotary club, my Rotary club, whichever one sponsors you, if you ask them to do some practice interviews, I think that's a great resource as well, because one important part of this process is understanding the goals of Rotary, understanding what they're ultimately trying to do as an organization, but also through you as a recipient. And kind of what it all comes back down to is world peace, essentially. So it's important to use certain language and to talk about Rotary's specific goals, and you can learn that through your sponsoring club.
Great. Okay, and so the last question that I have before we open it up to our attendees is, what general hints and tips do you have for other students who are interested in the Rotary? It could be anything regarding like letters of recommendation, when to start, anything like that. What are your hints and tips?
The sooner the better. If it's something you're even remotely interested in, as well start as soon as you can. Like I said, I mean, I literally went to my appointment and then that night started sending out all of these emails to try to get meetings with all of these different clubs. So I really just think if it's something you really know you want to do, go ahead and just go for it. With letters of recommendation, definitely don't wait on those either, especially if you want it to be an impactful, meaningful letter of recommendation. That's not something you ever want rushed either. Really, I guess my biggest tip, just also don't like cram your application. Like I know we even had a month extended on our applications to make edits and stuff. And I think I had a meeting with Paige like a week before mine was due, when I had months and months. So definitely go ahead and be proactive. Take the time to really go over it. I think it's kind of just, you got to just know yourself and know what you need to do. But that's kind of my general advice with Rotary.
I would say that Your narrative is very important. This is not really specific to Rotary. This is for, anything, is that really understanding your narrative and making sure it's genuine. And it does take months to develop one. It does, to kind of constantly go through revisions and thinking about which experiences are best at reflecting on, and even strategically thinking about who you want to write your letter of recommendation. Like if you maybe went on a medical mission trip with one particular, mentor, then, and if you're going to a place that is similar, then, they can talk about your ability to be resilient in that environment, which maybe is important, part of your narrative. So that's really important. Talking to previous winners, I think, is a great way to get started. I will, of course, be happy to talk to anyone about to help work on their narrative. That's really important. And the last thing I think is really good is to demonstrate that you already have a connection to the place that you're going. In my case, I was able to actually connect with the Rotary of Kirstenbosch, which is the district in the southern part of Africa. And so by explaining to the Rotary that I've already connected with this individual and their club, that they didn't need any more convincing when I was explaining to them that I was serious about this, and that I was going to work with Rotary as well in my service and that sort of thing. So connect to the Rotary Club in the place you want to go, or even connect to show that you have a demonstrated commitment to pursuing this opportunity.
Yeah, and kind of bouncing off of that, if there's really one thing that I could stress to anyone to emphasize, whether it be in your application or in those interviews or even in that initial contact with your sponsoring clubs, I think the big thing that people need to demonstrate is that you're not just in it for a once in a lifetime experience. You're in it for a lifetime commitment. Rotary is really looking for people that are committed to sustainable, measurable, community driven type of change. Their motto, if you don't know, is literally service over self. And that's something I really tried to emphasize in my interviews, and that's something I was also very passionate about. This is very corny, but something I had always looked at is something on their website. Part of their mission statement is together we see a world where people unite to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities and in ourselves. And that was something I really connected with. So if you're going to apply for Rotary, I recommend doing it not because you're looking for, again, that once in a lifetime experience, but because you're looking for that lifetime commitment. You're looking to help be a part of that lasting change, and your values really are paralleled by theirs as well. So definitely that's my biggest piece of advice if you were going to emphasize anything at all.
That's perfect. That's great advice. So I'm finished with my questions. If any of our attendees have a question, you can write it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question if you have any.
Hi, this is Trietta. I apologize. Can everyone hear me? Okay, I am having technical difficulties today, and somehow I cannot share my camera or anything. It's crazy, but I'm a student that's a junior. I'm a new transfer student at the University of South Carolina, and my major is psychology, and I'm double majoring actually, psychology and international studies. And Cape Town is on the list for me, so I'm so excited to hear that JD, you're going there, and Ghana was also my another interest of mine. And I had another person that was sharing some experiences that was there during the spring when the whole coronavirus broke out. So I'm just interested to see what you guys do you feel that you should prepare as a junior? Is it too soon to start with kind of gathering things for the application, or is it just your overall when did you start the process working with the Rotary team?
So I'm trying to think of the exact month I initially reached out to Rotary. I will say, if you haven't met with the office of with Paige or Jen or any other staff members, yet, I would recommend definitely doing that as a junior. I think I did it my first time as a junior, and just so you can like go ahead and have that on your radar and stuff, they do have a document with like the specific timeline of like when you need to be sponsored by, when you need to have your application submitted by. So I would definitely kind of go in accordance with that, but it's never too early to get started on like working on like you can access like the application questions already, I'm pretty sure. Like you can start thinking about that, get kind of the brain turning about your kind of why statement, what you really want to convey in that application. It's never too early to begin practicing with that, I would say. And
Awesome.
also, you know, the two places that you're interested in, like you can reach out to those universities by any means. Like if there's like certain projects you're interested in, if you want to meet with us by any chance, that's definitely something you can do in the meantime as you get closer to that application period.
Wonderful. And I am actually in the process of planning to do a Maymester, and it's going to be the Cape Town business trip. So I've reached out to the person that's heading that trip at Dollamore, and I'm really excited about that experience.
Yeah, and so the Rotary actually is one of those strange fellowships that has a ridiculously early deadline. So you do apply for that your junior spring for a master's. So the people who will be applying this coming spring will be starting their master's in 2022, which seems super duper far away. And it is super early, but that's just the process for Rotary. Because you're a transfer student, not sure if you're delaying graduation or not, but in any case, now is a great time to come and chat with us so we can make you aware of all the different things that are available to you, because junior spring really is the time to start planning for those things. And yeah, glad to hear that you're going on the Cape Town program, and glad that you won the study abroad application waiver fee as well. So that works
Yay!
out perfectly.
Super excited about that. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions?
I want to just chime in just real quickly, because as much as junior year is the time to do it if you want to go straight into the grad program after graduation, we've also had students apply as alums who have been out in the world for a few years, and they've won as well. So Rotary is nice because it's very flexible in terms of the timing and how it best fits into your pathway. So we like to make sure students know about this as early as junior year so they can apply, but know that we would be happy to work with you whenever it fits into your own time frame.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, if there are no other questions, I'm going to stop recording.
Interested in exploring National Fellowships further? Then follow the links in the description below this video to see our upcoming workshop schedule, explore our searchable database info, or make an appointment to talk with a National Fellowships advisor. Don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter, The Candidate, and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at UofSC NFSP. We look forward to meeting with you soon.